Good evening, everybody. Let me just make sure that we've got a pulse for the stream, and then we can jump right in. I also need to sneeze, but not enough that, like, I waited for a bit, and then the stream was... Oh dear, sorry, just give me a second here. Dear, okay. I'll just need a moment. Cool. Thought I had that fixed, but yeah, I did a reset before starting the stream, but apparently that doesn't fix the occasional things popping up while I'm wanting to start. So let's jump into Tyranny, and then we can figure out where we are on the DLC. Given the fact that this is, well, to me, obviously the Bastard's Wound DLC, I would not be surprised if we wind up sort of, for lack of a better term, stuck in this area. Clearly, you know, it's weird to say the word stuck because there's absolutely no rule saying I have to engage with the DLC. I am doing so because I'm going to assume that I will enjoy it. But I also know that, you know, we're in the middle of the second act. We had some momentum going for the main story, and now we're well and truly at a point where this is something that's not, you know, not the main game. But I would also say that given that one of the criticisms seems to be that the game was, I guess for lack of a better term, like rushed at the end. I'm hoping that spending some time with the extra content will save me from the from any feelings of disappointment. Cool. I think this just gets me stuff in my inventory. I don't know if I really need to log in each time, but that's fine. I'm sure they're going to use all this telemetry in a really interesting way to make the best RPG. So far as I can tell, Paradox has started and canceled several CRPGs, so they're not actually welcome to it. I rather wish they wouldn't do that sort of thing, but not much is going to change on that complaint. Okay, I'm going to change things up a little bit. So I'm going to see what's behind this door, and then a Fatebinder ain't no Archon. We'll draw bronze if you force us. Yep, so these are just domiciles. Fatebinder, just what the wound needs. Please speak to Master Japsos at the Forge before pronouncing any verdicts. So I'm wondering if they're reacting this way because I haven't spoken to one of the leaders yet. Kairos' eyes don't fall here, Fatebinder. See all this water? Maybe it's not wise to upset the Tidecaster. A weary-looking man observes you through dark, sunken eyes, nodding faintly as you approach. Fatebinder, greetings to you. Though unkempt and draped in disheveled rags, he bows deeply in the style of a northern tiersman nobility. You observe that his right arm is emaciated and frail, seemingly rooted in place. Rostrum Lenk, son of the late Rostrum Volus. I saw you in the Bastard City shortly after Tunon's arrival. We've come a long way from them, haven't we? He chuckles mirthlessly at the memory. You'll want to speak to Wagstaff or Japsos before you get too settled in. The former's down by the falls, the latter's in his forge up north of the hall. Fatebinder, fantastic. You should probably speak with Wagstaff in the chamber overlooking the south.
I see the Tidecaster has made himself at home in these flooded halls.
Arranged at angles that recall the sigil of Gravelight, these crystals shimmer with the collected glow of what little radiance from Terratus Grave fills into these depths. A bearded, weathered figure stands by the pool's edge, eyes closed in concentration. His face, uncharitably weathered from years of sun and wind, is a collection of deep intertwining creases wreathed by a brittle-looking gray mane. One disapproving eye snaps open as you approach. The old man stomps on the end of his staff, flipping it upward into his hands in an unexpected display of agility. He leans against it and looks at you through narrowed eyes, head bent upward at a disdainful angle. A Fatebinder. Well, this is going to be a shit day, isn't it? He mutters further to himself, unintelligibly, before speaking up again. Out with it, then. I'm ready for whatever's going to spew out of your ballast hole. Nice place. Safe to assume you've been squatting here in the old walls for quite a while? He glares at you, gripping his staff tightly. His hands encircle the shaft, squeezing it with white-knuckled rage. I speak plainly, Fatebinder, and what's plain as day is that you've stumbled on a settlement that shuns attention. He points a shaky finger towards anxious onlookers gathered across the bridge. You've sent this whole place into a panic. I'll grant you that may not have been your aim, but when this place is out of sorts, I'm out of sorts. If you've come looking for Wagstaff, you've found him. No doubt you're swimming in regret already. He grips his staff, watching you intently. I have that effect on people, and it suits me fine. Took years to perfect. If you've come expecting supplication, you're in for a frustrating wait. It's not personal, Fatebinder. I prefer being disliked. Keeps the neighbors at bay. I understand. Let's keep our mutual suffering to a minimum. That's the most cordial thing That's the most cordial thing anyone's ever said to me. A worthy goal, Fatebinder. Though my discomfort is just a drop in the ocean. Do you see all those settlers cowering behind doorways and wetting themselves? You bring a lot of uncertainty with you. I assume someone pointed you towards me to speak for the settlement. If there are matters to discuss, then so be it. I may not like it, but I do lead these people. Frankly, only because nobody else can. That stone-straddling fool Japsos will talk himself into believing he's up to the task, but don't believe his bluster for a moment. Anyway, I'll ask the question everyone's wondering. What are your intentions for us? I haven't decided yet. I have questions for you first. Very well. What does a Fatebinder want with this old Tidecaster? What do you do here as one of the leaders? He shakes his head. I'm the only true leader, as I've said before, but I won't belabor the point. He clears his throat. 3 years ago, I stumbled across these old walls and very quickly found I wasn't alone. A clutch of hungry and sick tearsmen had stumbled upon this enclave as well. I had come here to escape Kairos' forces, but I'm nothing if not driven by noblesse oblige. I decided I'd weigh anchor for a bit and help out. His staff dips into the pool at his feet, sending ripples across its surface. Water was both the problem and the solution. These refugees were surrounded by it, but couldn't drink it without picking up whatever old walls-induced disease lived within it. Withering rot, we call it. What's wrong with the water down here? The streams that run through these old walls have something foul about them. Some suggest the Bane do their business upstream and it taints the water. I suspect the problem is less scatological in origin, but likely mystical all the same. Whatever it is, it leads to fever, seizures, eventually death. I have been able to concoct a remedy if administered in time, and I can mix this solution with water to make it drinkable. But untreated, the water here is a death sentence. And these people accepted your leadership willingly. Did I knock them around first? Is that what you're asking? No, they were survivors of some battle where Cain brought a keep down on their heads and opened a route to this enclave in the process. They were starving, lost, terrified of the Bane, and they came to me for help since my magic could keep them safe. I'm sure have changed. Lots of folks begging a tidecaster to save them and all. What happens to those with withering rot? You waste away in agonizing fashion. That's the short of it. The water here slakes thirst for a moment. Those poisoned reported feeling dry no matter how much they drank. They'd be pissing and shitting out more than you put in, while being desperately thirsty all the time. Your skin shrivels and cracks. Eventually you die, a pathetic, desiccated husk of a person. That's what I found when I happened upon the wound. A lot of scared, dying folks that weren't long for this world. Nobody was going to right that ship except me. So I stayed, and they lived. To a tidecaster, these are trivial matters. So long as I'm here, making a solution to purify the water is a simple matter. I've made life here possible. It's a difficult burden, but I'm honored my talents were put to good use. What else do you want from me? Tell me about the tidecasters. We're the students of the occulted Jade, Archon of Tides. She was one of the founding pioneers of the Tiers, and her school has been the longest-running institution of learning in the peninsula. Don't listen to what the sages say. Why didn't you leave with the others? I was one of the few to stay. And why not? This is my home. I don't care about Kairos' war or the slaughter sport of these Archons. But I also wasn't about to sail west to die of starvation on the high seas. The promised lands are a lie. The ocean goes onward, or maybe you fall off the edge or wrap around to the east coast of Terratus and land right in Kairos' lap. If I'm to die, let it happen on my father's coast and my mother's land. What have you been doing since the school's departure? I spent the first few span dealing with some unfinished business. Half a dozen sages had wronged some friends of mine, and I'll admit vengeance occupied me for a time. When Kairos' forces came, I decided to stay far from the beaten path. I set out to the mountains to find privacy. This place was serendipity writ large. When others stumbled upon this place, it somehow shifted from hovel to home. I did not expect or ask for the responsibility of caring for these people, but now that I wear it, the mantle is comforting. What did you do in the school before the war? Provost of Antiquities was the official title. My life's work was a curation of the school's past, the relics, the sermons of occulted Jade, the life stories of Tidecasters' elders past, that sort of work. A fellow historian. I didn't realize Tidecasters gave a care to the historical record. I wonder how your notes would compare to the chronicles of the sages. I'm sure I could fill in countless gaps in your accounting. The Tidecaster glares at Lantry with contempt. Ah, yes. Let the historical record note that Lantry takes the hint. Coughing nervously, the sage takes several steps back and falls silent. My personal interest has always been the fluid magics of our school. Most of the school embraces the mighty power of Gravelight. I almost can't blame him. For me, water, mist, ice, and fog have always been more immediate, more real, more worthy of understanding. Why didn't the Tidecasters stay and fight Kairos? If I may be so bold as to answer your question with a question, why do you think it was? Not many folks seem to know the truth, so I'm curious what one of Kairos' soldiers believes happened. Rational self-interest. The Tidecasters knew Kairos was coming years beforehand and rightly feared death. A sensible guess? We Tidecasters practice quite deadly magics. One might rightly assume we'd be eager for the excuse to display our martial prowess. Odd, then, that we'd all run and hide, don't you think? The truth is, our Archon lacked the will to resist. Scores of Tidecasters craved war, but lost heart at the notion of facing the enemy without occulted Jade leading the charge. Enough. I do not wish to revel in the cowardice of the Tidecasters. I made my decision to stay. I'm not pretending I'm sort of brave hero, but at least I'm trying to hold on to some little port in the storm. How do you purify the water? It's impossible to convey the intricacies, but suffice it to say that I must infuse water with Gravelight energy. This, combined with trace amounts of alcohol and beastman blood, counteracts the mortifying effects of the Old Wall's water. I see that look in your eye. Worry not. The beastmen willingly give these vital fluids when they can. It's a tiring process, but it produces clean and restorative water. Japsos' product is an amateur's imitation and will never sustain this place in the long run. That's why I've taken on Insipid moniker as my apprentice, to safeguard the process. And unlike most, she knows just when to stay out of my way. What should I know about Jaspos? His eyes glaze over at the mention of his rival's name. Ugh, if only that rock pounder would just shut up. He loves the sound of his own voice. He grips the roping on his waist, squeezing it with a clenched fist. Unfortunately, his forge is on the upper level.